Hello, are we live? Hello, squaddies. If you can hear me, can you please put a 1 in the chat? So I am here and it's not my regular time, though I wanted to come on as there are lots of things happening and to address some things that have been happening in the chat. So I'm going to begin, as we typically begin, with a meditation and a non-denominational prayer. So first, find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of any tension that you might be holding in your body. Let's take another deep breath in, filling your lungs with air, and slowly exhale, releasing all the stress and worries of the day. Now let's focus on our breathing for a few moments. Inhale deeply and exhale fully. With each breath, feel yourself becoming more grounded and more present. I'm going to do that one more time. So find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of any tension you might be holding in your body. Let's take another deep breath in, filling your lungs with air, and slowly exhale, releasing all the stress and worry of the day. Now let's focus on our breathing for a few moments. Inhale deeply and exhale fully. With each breath you feel yourself becoming more grounded and present. So how are we feeling? Did that help? So the next thing I want to do is to conduct a non-denominational prayer. So I want to say, Dear Spirit Universe, we come together today with open hearts and open minds. We seek to understand the complexities of our world and the intersections of culture, race, and gender. Guide our conversation with compassion, empathy, and a commitment to truth. Help us to see beyond the surface, to challenge the narratives that divide us, and to foster a spirit of inclusivity and fairness. May our discussion today be a step toward greater understanding and respect for all viewers, no matter their background or status. So, if you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat, someone. So I wanted to talk a bit about things that we haven't been able to cover. I know that we have been engaged in a dialogue around the controversy surrounding the First Lady of Nigeria's comments. And with the understanding that lots of people want to stay in that space, and with the understanding simultaneously that others want to be able to move on, I'm hoping that we can have a kind of dialogue that allows that for all of us, something for all of us. So I spent a lot of time yesterday and this morning answering and responding to comments related to what we have termed diaspora wars. And I also have been contemplating how we move forward in this space and try and maintain it as a space of healing. So that is my hope. There's been lots of other things happening in the world, especially with respect to the UK media and their treatment of our Duchess. So I'm thinking that, we have been intending on doing work around the portraits that happened recently. We've had two over the last month. One of Prince Charles and a separate one of Duchess Catherine. Also, with our focus being on the First Lady of Nigeria's comments, we haven't really had a lot of time to dissect the portraits and or what is happening in the UK around the Princess of Wales. So what I've noticed lately is that there's been also a lot of commentary around what's happening with Princess Catherine, and lots of blogs saying that we don't know where the princess is. And to be quite honest with you, I'm quite worried about that situation with Princess Catherine, and I want to talk a little bit about that, understanding that that's never the focus of our podcast, and also with the understanding that we are a compassionate people in this space. And it's pretty challenging to move forward when things like a disappearance is happening and allegedly it looks like photographs are being put up of Catherine and attributing them to today when they are clearly from another time period, as evidenced by timestamps and what was happening in the earth and the sun. These things are never the same, and so people who are photographers can read photographs and tell you not only the time and date, but the specific location during that time and date that photographs were taken. It's amazing what can be done in media or with respect to timestamps. And yeah, that's all a part of this new world that we live in. And so I, have concern about the Princess of Wales and what's going on with her and the children, as I would like, I don't want to even put this out there, but if something were to happen to any of us, I think we would want the same kind of compassion for our partners, our children, our grandchildren, our loved ones. And so I think it's important, the narrative around the squad in the media, and there are always lots of false narratives about the Sussex squad in particular, that space where we reside, is that we are somehow anti. I don't think that that's true with respect to our humanity. We're not anti-humanity. We want people to be safe. We want people to be cared for. We want people to be loved. And so I am not, it's challenging to do those things when we don't have information. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not seeing enough in media to show me that there's a genuine concern. And that is a red flag for me. And so I think it is probably also a red flag for a lot of you members of the squad that we haven't seen Catherine in a long time. And I'm really worried also because I haven't seen the children, except for one, in a long time. And it feels really strange, for me, it feels like I'm living in a parallel universe. And so what do we do with these feelings? And these feelings are also coupled with the feelings that are happening in our own space around our own Duchess. So none of these feelings are good. They are the feelings that happen around trauma. Somebody's missing. And we've been talking a bit about in this space about how, diasporans went missing because they were taken from, or because our ancestors, a lot of us diasporans, were taken from West Africa for the most part and dispersed throughout the world. And there's that feeling. And I have also a kind of feeling around that with respect to Princess Catherine. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, and I don't like it feeling this way. And so I want to just put some compassion out there in the space for Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and hope that wherever she is, that she is okay, that wherever she is, that she is getting a kind of healing, that wherever she is being loved on by her children. And I hope that at some point soon that there is a kind of resurfacing so that we can see for ourselves that everything is okay, because I think in the back of a lot of our minds is that feeling like of uncertainty and fear that something really tragic may have happened to the princess. And it doesn't really help when media puts out images that are old, allegedly, and images that where she's looking, extremely healthy, and that's compared to the last video. And lots of people don't believe that it was an actual video of Princess Catherine. Many people believe that it goes back to her in November of last year, that last time that we really saw her. And then we also keep getting these reports that, we're not going to be seeing her anytime soon. Hey, Gwen Daniel. How are you? I hope you're doing well too. I'm doing okay. This space generally lifts me for the most part. So hopefully by the time we're done, I will be feeling extremely well. Kay's Burner Cow, good afternoon. You're in New York. Yay. Lakiva. Love Meghan and Harry. Yes. So we began with a meditation and a non-denominational prayer. And I just wanted to give some energy to Princess Catherine from the Sussex Squad to say that we are worried. We are not feeling our best because we want you to be okay and we want to know that you're okay. If you guys agree with this sentiment, can you put a 1 in the chat? Because I think for me, it feels good to know that I know we're good people. And we get maligned in the media so much. But our humanity shines despite that, right? Our humanity. Hey, Novi! So if you guys agree, can you please put a 1 in the chat? And can I get an I am Meghan Markle? It has been for me, I've been ebbing and flowing over these last 3 or 4 days. Thank you so much, Connie Balmer. There's been a kind of ebb and flow in my emotions. Like, I think I've been better, and then, we go back and we have this conversation again. Thank you so much, Lakiva. Thank you so much, Kay's Burner account. Because, have you guys been feeling like that? With all the dissecting of, and no matter how we try and have this conversation and make it a kind of safe conversation, it does not feel that way for people, for a lot of people, because of the trauma associated with it. And I'm not going to say any names, but I read an account this morning that broke my heart about a squatty being picked on, and it was just devastating for me. And so I want us to continue to build our bonds as a family and to make ourselves stronger, as we came together for a reason. We came together out of necessity, right? And thank you, Connie. I am Meghan Markle. Yes, we came together because we wanted to protect one of our own. And lately, I think we have felt a little bit unprotected. And for me, like I said, I've been ebbing and flowing. I've been feeling good and I've been feeling, sad as we talk about that conversation. And I don't want to ignore people's feelings. I don't really want to do an entire show, but if it's necessary for us to have a separate conversation as a squad just around those things and around kinds of exercises that we can do for healing, then we can do that. I can dedicate an hour or so of time this week and just do a kind of, not therapy, but a kind of process where we can process our feelings and thoughts and as a group and say some of the things that maybe that we need to say so that we can understand how and why some of us, we can be mean to each other, and we do that in families. Let's see, howdy, I don't want to miss these comments. Kay's burner account, Mary, in Jesus' name we pray, because Trumping, okay, is that my conversation? I don't know. Let's see. I said, yeah, Lakiva, I am Meghan Markle. Ice Cube out in these streets promote. Oh, what? Cat Williams was very silent on those supporters, but had a lot of heat for others. Professor Zinzi, show me how I can apply for membership. I can't find the button. Connie, what I read as I did a deep dive on that was that after whatever, they will do it. I think I've done everything on my side. If not, I will have to email them directly. I've tried to watch a few videos to see how to make that happen. I'm so excited that you guys want to be members. I did my best in trying to set up memberships. If you have any feedback on the way they're structured, let me know, because this is not my channel. This is our channel, right? And so thank you, Mary. I am Megan. I am the ancestors. I really appreciate that. April May, I am Meghan Markle. Yes, absolutely. So I will say what I know about Ice Cube, Kay's burner, is that Ice Cube is also a member of a group called Foundational Black Americans. And it is a group that seeks to separate, allegedly, in part, African Americans from other diasporans, if you will. And so they, African Americans have been fighting for things like reparations in this country. And the FBAs, for the most part, are saying that they only want reparations for African Americans. It is a new kind of thing. I think we've talked about foundational Black Americans a couple of times. And I think it comes out of the trauma too. Like if you guys don't like us, then we're going to isolate ourselves from other members of the diaspora because of this trauma that keeps happening. Like the member of the squad whose comment that I read, who talked about being bullied and saying that she was being made fun of because of the enslavement of her ancestors. And that, for me, that was so heartbreaking, right? Mary says, Ice Cube has always been this way. Yeah, it's really, really an interesting thing. These conversations. And I think we definitely need more unity. We don't need to be tearing ourselves away from the diaspora. Beware of sheep in wolf's clothing. Yep. Lydia was successful. Yeah, Lydia was. She was. And I haven't asked Lydia how. I've just been like, it takes me a while. And you guys can let me know this too. I try to write really personal comments in the chat because if people take their time to go there, I want to address them in the same kind of way. If those things are important to you, let me know. If they're not, and you don't go back and check, let me know that too. Like if it feels like that's not a waste, that is a waste of time, or if it's not a waste of time. So yeah, let's see. It's all about money and subjugation of women. It's what men like them ish for total control and disrespect. There's a lot of these, what are they calling them? Red pill channels, allegedly, if you will, around the role of like these trad wives, traditional wives. And the challenge is that we don't live 70 years ago. We're in 2024, right? So let's see, all about the Benjamins. I love you guys because you keep me strong. I feel the same way. I think that I'm a Pan-Africanist. And so that's me. I believe that there is a thing as Black American culture that just like there's culture even in our households. And I think that we share and have traditionally shared and take from different cultures, right? I don't think that we should be out here trying to separate ourselves and say, putting ourselves above and traumatizing people based on these experiences that we have, or based on what part of the world for some of us, ended up in by, for a lot of us, no fault of our own. I know there are new people go all over the world and live. I don't vibe with that. I just don't vibe with that. And thanks for you guys who've gone into the community page and let me know which, potential emojis that you want on the channel. I'm trying to keep up with that a little bit too. And I also want to make sure that we are continuing to go high, if you will, in our learning, in our discussions around art, in our discussions around intersectionality, and how, we and Meghan show up in the world, and what happens as a result of showing up in these bodies, and what can we learn, what can we do, how can we address these things for ourselves and have healing, how can we address these things with and for our Duchess, so that we can continue to call it out and let her know that there's a community, and let ourselves know that we are also a community of people who love each other and who want what's best for each other. And I think as a podcaster, a new podcaster, very new podcaster, I bear the responsibility, the bulk of the responsibility. You guys do too have some responsibility. I bear the bulk of the responsibility, though, for the direction of this channel. I bear the responsibility for causing, when I don't get things right. And I really appreciate it when you guys let me know that I said something. Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you so much. I just saw that pop up there. That I bear some of the responsibility for the direction of this channel with you guys' input. I value you. I want to keep it an open space where we can all, have time and space to think, right? And so we can make it better and better every day. And for us to do that, I love that dancing. For us to do that, we, have to try and get better ourselves. We have to heal. Um, okay, what did I see? Who's the featured lady? Oh, that's the artist that did the portrait for Princess Catherine in the Tatler, or for the cover of the Tatler, right? I don't understand, why do we hurt each other? They always say hurt people, right? But we are hurt people and we're trying to not hurt people. I still see that. The dancing. Let's see. I think that's our beautiful Professor Zinzi. I wish. She is gorgeous. Yeah, she is the one who did the artwork for the Tatler magazine. I was planning on talking about that for a couple of days now, right? At least it's hump day, right, Joyce Anderson? Good Wednesday afternoon to you and to everyone. And yeah, I am considering this podcast all the time. I'm thinking about you guys, and I'm thinking about how do we elevate? How do we form this community? And eventually, if this is what you want, how do we begin to come together in other parts of the world? Is that possible for us to, if someone is in, or if I happen to be in Atlanta, can we have an open conversation that comes outside of this space, and where we have a kind of small-ish get-together? Or is it possible for us to have a larger in-person, these are my dreams, right? To have a larger in-person get-together, gathering of the squad, And I have some other ideas that I'm really excited about. I want this to kind of be in the vein of an HBCU family, right? Where there's a kind of classroom where we come together, a kind of lab where we come together, and also, the celebrations that happen at HBCUs for homecoming. Because every time I'm in this space, I feel like it is a kind of homecoming. And though every conversation that we have is not always pleasant, right? It feels like to me that the conversations that we are having are intentional and they are loving. And even when we have to chastise, or say things that are harsh, they don't feel unsafe to me. I can't say that that's 100% true for anybody else in the space, but what I can say is that I want to do what's best for, all of us. Let's see. Connie says, "Oh, would love that, Professor Zinzi, but I'm from Switzerland." Yeah, I don't know if I'll get there, but I'm supposed to be taking a trip to Denmark to see one of my besties. Her mom wants to see me, so we'll see if that happens at the end of the year. But, even if it's online, I don't know how, but it would just be really lovely to feel the energy of the squad in a different kind of way, also outside of this. But this is also just very beautiful. But again, it's a dream at this point, right? It's a dream. And so we are, in my opinion, you are, in my opinion, I'll say, brilliant, wonderful. We came together, you came together out of love. I see you in other spaces, loving each other and fighting for us as a squad and fighting for the Duchess in a larger way, right? And so I want to be able to respect that and to hold that up too. And so that's what I want this work to continue to be. I want it to feel like a kind of classroom where, we are able to have these conversations. And I also want to open it up to guests or at least, I want to open it up to some guests who can come together and have conversations. I have a neighbor, like I said, from Nigeria. I don't know that she would feel comfortable appearing on the pod, but I have thought about recording a conversation that I would have with her and having you guys listen and we talk in the same way as I play that conversation so that you can hear a different perspective that's not mine, right? So, the Tatler magazine, Katherine, like so much has been happening. We didn't even get to really dissect President Obama's portrait, the First Lady Obama's portrait. Michelle, if you will, we've been so stuck in our feelings, and that's what happens when we have a trauma. The brain, it's super, you can't be in emotion or it's really hard to be in emotion and to be rational when it's when it's something that our adrenaline is responding to, like when our polyvagal system is activated and we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode. It's really hard to go beyond fight, flight, or freeze and move into, okay, so how do I get perspective? How do I think logically? And also, so we can dissect some of these other more fun conversations. Though the pod stopped yesterday, I don't know what happened. I think we were getting there. Like, we started to get some levity, and I love levity in the space, right? I love when we got jokes, and we talked a little bit about Jasmine Crockett and how she, like, Marjorie Taylor came for her and that whole B6, oh my goodness, and how that's blowing up and funding people's campaigns now, and you can buy merch that says like B6, right? So it's pretty phenomenal what came from someone insulting. And I would love to get back to that work. We're getting back to some of that work today that moves us beyond the trauma, while also simultaneously, if someone has thoughts or feelings, it's an open space for you to bring those things up. And we all have biases, right? And we all live separate in our own homes, or most of us, I imagine, live separately, with our own people, or alone, right, in our own spaces. And I think that before I move on, I think that with respect to what the First Lady of Nigeria said, there are a lot of feelings, hurt feelings, and I heard from African Americans in particular about how they're feeling and feeling targeted, and diasporans from the UK saying that they, I think, who originate from maybe places like Jamaica, who immigrated to the UK, are having feelings also around what the First Lady said that feels a bit like what happened to them in their childhood. And so I just want to say I'm so deeply sorry that that happened to you. I want you to be able to be held in this space in a way that brings you some kind of joy and that lifts you. And so, what we can say, what we can do is say that we're a community, that we are Meghan Markle, right? That we are wanting all of us to be good. And, like all of us probably have said things that we're not proud of. I know I have. And like I said, I grew up hearing that whole thing about calling people African booty scratchers, and then also understanding that there's slurs that are specifically meant for African Americans. I mean, you guys know about the N word that was created. Oh gosh, and we didn't even get to the spelling bee. Have you guys seen that clip of the spelling bee that's been going around? I see something from Marshar, Mary Mance's B6. As with most things that are unpleasant, it takes a process to get through it. We get through it, then we go on, except MTG will never go. Oh my. Okay, you said that. But, so there's this clip of the spelling bee going around where I suspect maybe the beginning of, or it may have something to do with, I'm trying to be careful with my speech, I'll see if I can find it, of the N-word, if you will. It was like, ooh, let me see, I'm going to see if I can find the clip of spelling bees. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? That's going around. Yes. I don't think it's funny. I think it's, so, was it 2 years ago? But it's, yeah. So it's a spelling bee, and this kid was asked to spell this word. And you know how they do. They ask like for the origin of the word, like etymology and these other things that happen. And it's a word that derives from, I think, Amharic, right? About an Ethiopian, the name of an, or title of an Ethiopian ruler, if you will. And there's been that whole thing like where Africans have, the continent of Africa was called Ethiopia by lots of people for generations too, right? So anyway, this kid is being asked to spell this word, and the word, I'll put it in the chat. Can you guys see that? That's the word. During a spelling bee. And it is, you see this kid looking very, for me it's sad. The spelling bee probably should have done a better job, in my opinion, of choosing words. Because when we hear these words too, and when kids have to say it, he wouldn't have been hesitating as much as he was if the kid didn't feel like he was going to be doing something wrong that was going to affect him. So, if you get a chance, take a look at that clip. And so again, like, I can imagine kiddos in this guy's school saying things to him, and then him becoming a kind of hero in another space around, oh, wasn't that cool, you got that word, and you got to say that word. And I was just like, what in the world is happening? And I don't know if this is right after Ms. Avant-Garde won the spelling bee. When did she win? Was that Zaila Avant-Garde won the spelling bee from, I think she is from New Orleans, and she's homeschooled, but she won. And I'm like, I don't know if this was in that same spelling bee. That was around, I would think, like, it may have been 3 years ago when she won. But anyway, I was just like, whoa, this is a lot. It's a lot. So anyway, so these things happen. And for the person who said in the chat that they felt really sad, if you will, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not their exact words, about the trauma they experienced being in the UK and having people saying things like, we sold you, we intentionally sold you. And I'm just like multiple times, members of the diaspora saying these things to them. And I'm like, what kind of world? No wonder we go to our corners, right? No wonder we feel afraid of each other if we're saying these kinds of things to each other. And though I didn't do that, I'm really still sad. And at the same time, like for people in the United States, even as kids who grow up saying African booty scratcher, it's traumatizing. I have a friend, I've talked about him, I haven't seen him in years, who's from Eritrea, who talked to me about being called African booty scratcher in this country and feeling terrible, right? Never used my name. I was always Miss Thang. What's up, Miss Thang? I'm like, you know what, boy? But yeah, so he told me about how I think his family came to the US when he was about 9 or 10. And yeah, growing up, he learned how to navigate those things. And then, like, even having been a teacher for a while and teaching in public schools, watching kiddos from one kiddo in particular who broke my heart. She was from Somalia and pretended that she was from India. And I was just like, what is happening, right? So, like, these things happen in kiddos, and we get wounded. And I'm sure, like, I've heard Black Americans say cruel things to people, period, right? And it's not cool. Like, and a lot of most of it comes from our own trauma, right? Because the anti-Blackness that Black Americans felt around erasure, around, every part of us being dissected and told that it was not, it was not worth anything. And in fact, we were demoralized, we were demeaned, everything, and not allowed for generations to do, say, whatever, all these things, right? So, hate your hair, hate your skin, and so when India.Arie comes out and makes a song about brown skin, right? That was so beautiful. And so we started, for generations, and I'm not going to say my generation started this, like, nor my grandmother's. For generations, we have been reclaiming, like Maxine Waters said, and I think somebody said that in here maybe yesterday, day before, reclaiming our time, reclaiming every single thing about ourselves and owning those things because it is important. Because you don't get to use my culture against me. You don't get to use my hair against me. We have the Crown Act in this country now, and, around the country, because kiddos have been, and people, not just kiddos, adults have been discriminated against because of their hair. When we do it, it's considered, trashy, and when other people do it, it's considered cool. So imagine that, right? So let's see. Mary says, I have a suspicious mind, so I want to see the circumstances. I've seen that clip a while back. Yeah, that's the first time I saw it. I was like, what? Not cool. I have the topic for tomorrow. Thank you, Lady Rose. Yeah, so, like, just imagine, like, even that kid having to say that. He's always, for people who've seen it, going to be associated with that clip. And had nothing to do with him. the people saying it, and he can be big upped and he can be demeaned, like, oh, I heard you when you said that, or oh, I heard that when you said that, that was so, however it happens, it's a spelling bee. It should be, there should be a kind of sensitivity around certain things, right? Anybody just about can spell that word. And so, April May says, I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of wonderful people born in African countries, but I've also become known as some that considered African Americans just Americans, not different than European Americans. Oh, yes, I've experienced that. Traveling abroad, like, what do they call us? They call us, have a name in Kenya and other places that they call black, not just like, that means the same thing as calling us a white person. And, like, it's almost like you're dismissed. You're like, wait a minute. You don't get to dismiss me. Yeah, like, oh, you're an American. Like, yes, we built this place for free, right? We built this joint for free. And it was built for free, not because we chose to, right? We didn't make the South rich. The South was like the richest part of this country for most of the time this country's been in existence, because it could take labor away from us. And, by using a weapon, it could take our labor and our children's labor and our, for generations and generations and generations. And so, of course, remember having this conversation with a friend of mine who was a teacher, who was talking about enslavement. She didn't think that it was that bad. And so we had this conversation about, okay, so would it be possible for you to give me 2 years, just 2, and work for me from dark to dark, and let me take that money that you make? You're a teacher, so let's say you're making today $80K, right? And I take that $80K for 2 years, so $160. But not only that, you're going to work from dark to dark on most people, if most people have control over you. So you're not just going to be a teacher, you're going to do something else. So it's going to be at least around 120K. So if I have 240K, of course I have generational wealth. So you can't tell me that even for 2 years, which is a long time when we have to suffer, right? A day is too long, an hour is too long. But 2 years of labor, what would that do if people take 2 years of our labor? What can that do for them? And so this is not what happened for 2 years. This is what happened for hundreds and hundreds of years in this country. And so, of course, we built this place for free. It was our labor, right? The labor, and I'm saying our, because I am holding in my body the DNA. It was passed down to me from them. So let's see. That word was included in spelling bee as a setup to trigger, in my opinion. It was sick to include, and it was intentional racism. There was no cause to include. I agree. And so when we walk around in this world and we get these microaggressions and aggressions, like, it feels to me like cuts of a razor blade. And sometimes, we have time, and sometimes we try and just move on. And I think in the squad this week, we've had time, right? And we've had time, and at least in this space, I've tried to address that thing that happened in a way that promotes healing. And I know I haven't been 100% successful. I don't know that one can be. And I am a work in progress, so I'm going to make mistakes. What I can say is that I consider the comments of people, of everyone in the space. I answer the comments because I think it's important to take the pulse, and it's also a way to get to know you guys personally when you leave a comment. And I try to say my true thoughts, and if I've caused harm, or if you feel hurt by what I've said, I try and address that too, right? So, because I think these things are important, because we've been doing this work, and because we are family, and we hurt our family. Like, most of us get angrier at our parents and or children or friends than we get at almost anybody, because we love each other, and we get disappointed, and we use our harshest. A lot of people, I try not to, but a lot of people save their harshest critiques for their families, right? And their harshest words, because they can't, or they don't feel like they can say harsh things to other people. And again, when we were having the discussion around the hole in the heart for, and all of those people being taken away, there are so many feelings on both sides. And at the same time, we need to also be able to be aware that we still have to continue to do this other work. And it can be fun. So I'm looking at the portrait on that's up on the screen, right? Yes, slavery was, yes. Hold on, let me see. Who in the age thought slavery wasn't that bad? Plenty of people. It is a kind of narrative that is being allegedly put together in textbooks across this country in particular, talking about the merits of enslavement. And so I'm like, wait a minute. That in Florida, there's a whole huge kind of reckoning. And we have books that have been banned by lots of authors like Toni Morrison. Her books cannot be taught in a lot of spaces. Zora Neale Hurston, mostly, mostly black folk and other ethnic minorities' books have been banned because we don't want to make people uncomfortable, right? And so that's the justification. But when you put, like, for me, when I have perspective and I pull back my lens, I think every war is uncomfortable. What do you mean? So we're not teaching the Revolutionary War? We're not teaching the Civil War? We're not teaching the war in Vietnam? We're not teaching about all these battles that have happened because we don't want, or is it specifically the one that involves African Americans that we're not teaching? And that's what it is. It comes out to be that we're specifically, it is around African American trauma where we are uncomfortable or we don't want to hurt people's feelings, most of whom were not even in this country. So the bulk of people who immigrated to this country who are non-African American came in the earlier part of the last century, 1920s, had a huge flood of Italians and Irish people. Before that, for the majority of the people who came here and immigrated, they were not here. They were not a part of this system. When they came here, Ta-Nehisi Coates has a great article, I think it was in the Atlantic, about Donald Trump called The First White President. And it talks about, no, he wasn't the first, person of European descent, to be president, but how whiteness, the idea of whiteness came into being. And so in this country, I'll say allegedly, but in this country, when you come, there's a kind of bargain that happens where you are asked to, if if you descended from any place other than Africa, then I'm saying that as a continent, right? For them, except Northern Africa, but Sub-Saharan Africa, you're asked to get rid of your culture and to accept and to become white. And so, and to become white is to be not black in this country. And so people will, for the most part, give up their culture, or Europeans have given up, their culture for the most part when they come here. They might hold on to tiny fragments, but they are indoctrinated into a system of Americanness. They'll say it is, what do they call it? The melting pot, whatever. So that's what's said, but you're asked to not be Italian anymore. You're asked to not be Irish anymore. And don't typically continue to follow those traditions of the cultures that you came from. You begin to follow American culture, this whole pride in America, this whole pride of the flag. And if you're not a member of that, if you belong to the Sub-Saharan African tribes, any member of any of those tribes, then it's something else. And you can even see that a lot of people from India have traditionally the same thing. There's so much anti-black American racism and bias that happens across cultures, and even we see it in amongst Africans, specifically parents and people. I would say people in their 40s and above, but I would say maybe it's even 50s and above. And like I said, I had a friend talk to me recently in a different podcast around how trash Black Americans are. And I'm like, what? You can't believe that, dude. You wouldn't even be here. Like, how do you say that with a straight face to a Black American that, we ain't ish, if you will? Lakiva says, I love Africa and Nigeria because it's a beautiful place with beautiful people. Thank you for that. Crystal says, I love this community. I love the laughs, the closeness of the passion to be on the right side of history, and yes, our ability to be compassionate. Butting heads at times almost can't be avoided. As, yes, absolutely. We are still individuals in our own rights. Ban book policy of the Trump party. Vote, says Mary. Lakiva, the First Lady of Nigeria hurt me so much that I pray that she would come back and explain what she meant by what she said. She's still our sister. She is, and I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about, like, if we were not... So, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of people who are descended from... I have been told she's Yoruba. I think my neighbor said that, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But for people who don't descend from, like, what does that feel like? And it seems like for people who are Nigerian or who hail from Nigeria, that it feels like a slight to them. Like, to speak about the First Lady is to speak about them at the same time, though that's not what we mean. And it doesn't matter if that's what we mean, it still hurts. And to speak about the First Lady's words from Nigeria for, a lot of diasporans who don't come from Nigeria, and some who do, feel like, I know what she was talking about. She's talking about me, and I've heard that before. I've heard these terms before, and I've heard these dog whistles before, and so it feels personal, right? So trying to move on from that space, because if she meant it, okay, right? If she didn't mean it, okay, you caused some harm, even if inadvertently, clean it up. Like, that is just, but is that part of Black American culture that's not necessarily a part of, like, that expectation? Are you standing on I said what I said? Or, because I also hear this kind of, and please tell me if I'm reading this wrong, if I'm misreading it. I also hear a kind of, she's above that. She's above reproach. We hold her in the kind of regard of the kings and queens of Thailand. You don't speak against them, period. And that would definitely be a cultural thing, because, here in the US, there's supposedly this freedom of speech, right? So how do we hold these multiple things at one time? I'm not sure. I think we're trying, right, to hold these things at the same time, the comments, and then to hold on to loving each other. And so for us who come from different cultures that don't hold people in the kind of regard where they're above reproach, or because they're in a position they cannot be criticized, that's not what we grew up doing. And so we're going to respond in a different way. We're going to try and respond and not react. But when we're in our emotional brain, that's, that adrenaline's rushing because we feel unsafe. It's like alarm, 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 right? Those things are going off. And yeah, I'm going to hit the applause button. I don't know if you guys can hear this. Just I just felt like putting something else out there other than my voice. Like, yeah, because I think for the squad, let me do that. Can you guys hear the applause when I hit the button? Can you hear these sounds at all, or is it just me hearing it? Can you put a 1 in the chat if you can hear these sounds, if I've programmed this right? Because I really don't 100% know. Did you hear the applause or no? If you say anything racist to me, I will remind you how strong black people are. Lakiva said, 100. That's a tough job, Lakiva, right? I'm Yoruba, and she hurt me. Okay, thank you, Lady Rose. Yeah, that's a lot. Did you guys hear the sound, or is it just me hearing it? Can you, anyone, please put a one in the chat if you heard the applause that I played? Yes? Did you hear that? Nobody's putting anything in the chat? Okay. So, Lady Rose, yeah. So, I think the younger generation is getting this right. I think the millennials, the Gen Zers they're showing us how to show up in the world. They're showing us, like, these kids on social media and the way they take up for each other and the way they take up for diasporans, it is sorry, truly a beautiful thing, right? So I think we can I learn a lot from them. I remember when I was teaching them, I was like, you guys are different. Especially this was like when 10, 12 years ago, the last time I think I taught. And I noticed how different these kids were. I was just like, okay, I vibe with you guys. There's just something about that generation where they're just aware. Although I think they stress too much. Some people are saying that they're aging like milk because they're like so stressed. So they need to be careful of that. Marshar says, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Lady Rose first says she's one of those who think their culture is better than others. I don't support that idea. I don't either. I don't believe in cultural hierarchy. I think some of our cultural practices can be horrible, the ones that are harmful to people, and that can be a thing. And Marshar says, I'm not sorry that I don't feel as though the First Lady is a sister of mine. Maybe I'm petty, maybe not, but I know how to cut toxicity out of my life. No, I don't think, Marshar, that you're being shady or toxic. I think that that's a part of the brain's design. Like, okay, this person feels unsafe. I'm not going anywhere near them, and I'm going to be on guard. Not that it's going to be comfortable, but I'm going to be on guard because I believe that she did something, because it felt like harm. If you stub my toe, if you step on my foot, inadvertently or intentionally, it still hurts, right? So if you damage my crops and now I don't have food to eat unintentionally, I'm still going to be hungry. So we have to be careful, right, with respect to the way we move. Lady Rose agrees. Crystal Scott says, unfortunate part about wanting First Lady to explain her statement, we're being told to just take it as she didn't say what we thought she said, as she don't need to explain. That attitude doesn't help. I will say I agree with that, because it is, even if unintentional, it is to ignore the trauma. It is to ignore the feelings that we are experiencing. To say, trust me, when you just punched me in the stomach and now I'm on guard and I have a stomach ache, or you just hit me in the head when somebody did this thing to me, I didn't mean it. Yeah, you're not apologizing. Right? Even if you're saying you did, she's not saying she didn't mean it. It is others who are speaking for the First Lady because they think they understand what she meant culturally. I think I've heard that, like, this is not a part of our culture to do this, and it's not a part of our culture for the First Lady to explain. She's above that. She is, an actual, and I think that when Barack Obama messed up in certain ways, we expected for him to explain, like, what's up? So I didn't agree with him. Like I said, I've said before, I didn't agree with him 100% of the time. I don't agree with myself 100% of the time. And if I look back 10 years or 5 years or even 2 weeks, I understand that I make mistakes. And I'm going to make mistakes, That's why we have insurance. But with people, I don't know that we have a kind of people insurance. The insurance may be that we continuously try to improve ourselves, that we continuously try to do good things for ourselves and for others. Because that's the nature of this squad, right? That we show up, and we show up to do work. You know, we haven't even really gotten into the home, or like how many people have been out in them streets, in those social media streets, doing this work. Like, are we all in our bedrooms or like, doing whatever it is, with eating chocolate? Like, I can't, I'm just too exhausted. This hurts. I don't want to deal with it. And yet, if we don't have these conversations, and for me, I think it's getting better. For me personally, I like for people to explain personally, like, okay, and to take accountability. And I think by this point that there's an understanding of what happened with the words. So, oh, now we're talking food. And you like egusi soup. I had it once by Afro Food and Dance, which happens once a year in our town. Yay. What about Farina? The First Lady was very clear in what she said. We all felt it and received what she was putting out. If that wasn't true, we wouldn't be feeling the same insult from her. Yeah, I just have to say snaps, just snaps to that she said what she said, whether it's intentional or not. By the time you cause harm, so fix it. And I don't think that's a strictly Black American viewpoint, right? That is a viewpoint that is shared by most cultures around the world. And so when we're coming together, yeah. Some people might say she didn't realize her speech was going to be broadcast in that way. But when you say, I heard a squatty say, when you say the Duchess's name, when you say the Duchess's name, you understand that it's going to be magnified. And for us in the squad, we're going to try and figure out if this is shade or if this is something else. And so are the people in the UK media. They're going to try. And if it's shade and we've got, us allegedly a Clarence Thomas over here, or allegedly a Kanye West over here, and I have somebody to speak about the Black American experience, or that Black American in particular, to use as a wedge or as a weapon to weaponize. I can weaponize her words against, and magnify them. And that's why it's so offensive too, I think. Lady Rose loves Nigerian food. That part, Marshar. Anyone who's diving Black people is anti-me. I'll say this. I don't like that First Lady, and I don't want to see her anymore. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, it would seem like, a lot of times when we see people who are vulnerable get hurt, let's say that I'm dealing with a child abuse case, right? And I have to deal with a kiddo who's, let's say 7, people forget when they hurt kids that they grow up, right? And they're not saying kids. If it's a 7-year-old, that 7-year-old's gonna likely live long enough to become a 27-year-old. And when they're 27 and you're 47, or when they're 47 and you're 67, there's a difference in degree to what kind of harm that they can do to us. And most people, like, the brain does not allow you to forget because it wants you to stay safe, right? April May says, she meant exactly what she said. We African Americans know about the history of our ancestors, and we will not let anyone throw that up in our faces. We don't need anyone's approval, but God's. Is that blessing? Oh, but God's. Okay. We don't need anyone's approval, but God's. And that's a matter of being safe, right? For all people, for African Americans, for this tragedy that we've suffered, right? And also, the brain needs to know what's safe to stay alive. That's the number one job. Is, okay, we did this yesterday, this kept us alive. That thing caused us some harm, we got burnt on that, we fell over there, this land feels unsteady under my feet, so I'm going to be careful here. The brain is constantly scanning. Even as you sit here on the computer, when you hear a sound that doesn't sound right, when you smell something the brain is on keeping you safe. And so when people's words say things that feel harmful, the brain is like, alarm, alarm, alarm. That's harmful. That felt harmful. So what I need to do is deuces. Like, I need to stay away from that person. And unless, even, yeah. I was married for a time, and my ex-husband used to say to me, for every wrong he did, he knew he was going to have to do 10,000 things to make up for that one thing, for me to forget, or for me to be. And it wasn't me saying, oh, these weren't my words. It was him understanding what happened with trauma. Like, in order for the brain to trust that it takes effort. It takes not just time. Time heals some, can. And it also, like, when people are genuinely involved in trying to work to make things better, then the brain gets better, right? And so, let's see. And like the peanut soup too, right? And or like the pepper, or so many dishes that should be, when I was in South Africa, even, guys, I'm going to switch a little bit and then I'm going to get back to some of the comments. When I was in South Africa, I was amazed by the food there. And I'm like, and that ain't even like West Africa, by how similar the parallels in the food game were. I was like, wait a minute. So on this table, they had grits, right? And they called, was it pap that they called it? I'm like, y'all got grits over here. They didn't cook them the same, but they had their version, their kale, like my grandma used to cook it, which is like collard greens. They had sweet potatoes. They had peanut stuff. And I mean, just at a regular dinner table. I'm like, what? The parallels were deep. I was like, this is amazing that, we've been separated. And, most of us don't come from Bantu tribes, although some do. Like, and, because there was migration all over too. And at the same time, it's like, wow, the parallels in the food game. The food was good too. So, yeah, big ups to you guys in the chat talking about food. But I was just like, wow, this is really an amazing food journey. The grits, like, shocked me. The pap, or I was like, what? Okay. So, Deb says, Marshall, all of us did not hear the same, feel the same. I didn't hear her insult, nor do I feel insulted by what she said. I heard her mention Meghan to show African Americans want to learn culture. Okay. Okay. Deb, there's going to be maybe some. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here. And it's true. All of us did not hear the same, feel the same. I didn't hear her insult. Yes. If you didn't hear her insult, right, Deb, let me ask you this question. If you don't hear, if it's not her, the First Lady, who's saying these words, but you say personally some words, and someone tells you they feel that in a certain way, what do we do as a remedy, right? Is there a remedy when we've heard it not from one person, but we've heard it from, and it lowers the temperature and makes people feel sad? Do we have a responsibility? And do we have a responsibility to understand that, as we've been saying, that lots of people didn't hear the same thing, because we are diasporans and we are sensitive to things. A lot of us heard things, right? Let's see. Let's see. Heard to mention. Okay. Yes, Lady Rose, I had it once, very tasty. Yes, the soup game, right? Everybody put some soup emojis up. Crystal says, the gaslighting over this fiasco has definitely been enlightening. I need you to say more about what the gaslighting, Crystal, is from your perspective. So it's back on. Woo. And you guys know my trauma response is laughter. So, a mistake, Marshar says. Okay, Marshar, I'm going to take a breath first. All right. A mistake isn't a mistake if it was intentional. I don't seek or expect an apology from her. She designed her own cancellation, and with many of us, she is canceled no matter what. Was that voice okay, Marshar? Lady Rose says, I meant a person dividing blacks is anti-me. Yes. Yes. Marshar says, I'm going to take another breath, Marshar. Marshar says, that's true for a lot of folks, but for others, we feel what we feel and can graciously love that, disagree. Yes, I think we can graciously agree that, you know, lots of people from, like, African Americans in particular and diasporans felt and not just because Lady Rose is a Yoruba descendant of the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria, and I believe Lady Rose said they felt the same thing, right? So, um, graciously, I love us, Marshar. I just have to say I love us because Marshar, you can wear 100 different hats. You go. So Lady Rose says, yes, Connie Ballmer, my aunt. Oh, she's talking about Sue. Yours isn't good? Okay, we will take note of that. April May. It was the way in which she said the remark. She asked it in question form. Why is Meghan looking for Africa? Meghan didn't say she was looking for anything. Okay. I love the squad. I love the squad. I love how we have been able to come together and, in Marshar's words, graciously be able to engage in. And if you guys are new to this, I do forget to do this. Yeah, I'm getting used to you guys. So much so that if you are new to the squad, if you're new to the space, shout out to all of you. We normally, and you can see the artist for Kate's portrait and I haven't changed the slides since we've been here. We did a meditation, a brief one. We did a prayer, and we haven't much moved beyond that in days, right? And I think, though, at the same time, we have come to a space because we hold ourselves to a certain standard where we are allowed to have emotions that are like that run the full gamut, right? That we can, and at the same time, we hold each other and ourselves accountable for the way that we use our words in this space, right? So I'm really proud of our discourse in this space and how we try and move in a way, we've been trying to move in a way that so that healing happens. And yesterday, before the ancestors or the trolls cut us off, whichever that was, we were moving, and the day before, to a kind of space of healing, anti-tabloid, like anger, right? Really trying to get to a space where we see each other and we see each other's and by that I mean the explanations of and for, and also like trying to continue to create a space that is pro the world, not exclusive to this group or that group. And I think we were pretty successful up until like 4 days ago. It's like, oh no, we got to deal with this. And at the same time, I'm really proud of the discourse that the squad members in this space have been having, and it's not gotten to a point where we are, even if people feel like it, they've been able to take a breath and hold themselves in a way that they're responding, they're not reacting. And that's one reason I love the squad, right? So we can say, this hurt, that this is what I heard, this was my experience from that. And we can also say, when you say that the First Lady said this, if I'm getting hurt because I feel like you're attacking me when you attack the First Lady's words. We can hold multiple things at one time and have a dialogue that is elevated, because that's what we do, right? That's what we do. And are there any others? Let's see, that's how I understood it, April May. I mean, she knew it was because of Invictus unless she didn't know. But how not to know, Connie Ballmer says, right? Thank you for the heart, Marshar. Back to you, right? Yeah. So to put Invictus at risk, and by that I mean Meghan has been walking around the world, and Meghan is, an African American biracial woman, right? She's descended from all of this stuff over here. And if she feels unsafe in the UK, would she feel safe going and doing Invictus with everything else? Like, if she's, yeah. So would that mean the cancellation of, because, or would that mean she just doesn't go? In the same way that she didn't go for the 10-year ceremony because she doesn't want to deal with, because when we have relatives or friends whose partners or family members don't like us, do we show up in that space or do we meet them privately for lunch? And we don't want that. We want to have a space of healing. And so if there's a misunderstanding, a lot of people believe that there needs to be a conversation about it. Not everyone, right? Lakiva says, no one is above anyone else. God is above everything and everyone. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Lakiva says, one, good. Did you say Kate? That's my trigger horse. No, Marsha, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but we had this whole conversation about the fact that most of us are still at least worried, no matter how we feel about, the words that were used against our Princess Duchess. We are worried that we haven't seen her in a long time, and or the children, right? Since that ambulance outside of KP, right? Mary Mann, Kate Missington, the invisible princess who's seen everywhere by Mr. Yeah, and then did you guys, I know you peeped that out, that they were like, oh, the sighting and question. Yeah, when I read, I'm like, question mark, like when you're putting question marks around or whatever, sightings, like, or somebody, it's just like weird. No, that's not journalism. Oh, Lady Rose says, I was born in Denmark and learning African cooking until now. Still not good. Are you part Danish? Lady Rose, it's our responsibility is not to berate and cancel each other based on an assumption and treat others as we want to be treated. In that circumstance, I would want the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Thank you, Deb. Crystal Scott says, I've sat out and watched from both perspectives, and the pushback in defense of the comment has felt like fighting words. And then I see words like either take what I say is true or lose me. What is that? That feels harsh. That feels, am I misreading it? Let me try that one again. I've sat and watched from both perspectives. The pushback in defense of the comment has felt like fighting words. And then I see words like either take what I say is true or lose me. That's a lot. From my perspective, again, take what I say is true or lose me? Okay. You know what, Mary? I am afraid that could be true. And, I am afraid that could be true. And the thing that worries me, too, is, like, allegedly, why aren't the people in uproar about this? Why are people just allowing this narrative to happen? As Crystal Scott says, as a Meghan supporter, Merryman, now you're trying to get me tracking Kate. Lakiva 100. I now know to watch the First Lady of Nigeria 100. That's saying something. Oh, you guys, take a breath, everybody. Take a collective breath. And what is our purpose? And still I rise, and still we rise. You may write us down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. Like air. Like air, we rise, don't we, up in here. Calmate. April May, I love and welcome all people, no matter where they were born. But if you reject me, I will create a space for you to stay away from me and mine. And again, that's about the brain trying to be safe. And so how do we, again, I'm going to try and see if she will do my neighbor, but she's Igbo, so does she count? She's from the Warri region up there. But does she count? I'd like to have at least to record a conversation between she and I, and maybe discuss our conversation in this space. So to see what you think. My goddaughter's Hausa, but she's not really that connected, so she wouldn't be able to have a kind of dialogue anyway. Let's see. I love and welcome all people, no matter where they were born. Oh, yep. Okay. Is Mary really? It is a really scary. Like, I know, yes, that there's been a lot of damage done, and see, here we are, back to levity. Yay! Thank you so much. I know that there's, and at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, we are all concerned about her. Am I saying the right? Are we all concerned about where she is? Because if somebody has the power to do that for someone that's that also been that visible, that's a scary thing for me. Oh, Crystal says ran out of space. Okay, okay. Um, yeah. Let's see. Okay, Mary. Those aren't my words in what was repeating the threat that came when defending the last comment. Okay, those aren't my words. I think you. I was repeating the threat that came when defending the last comments. LOL. Okay, Marshar says I missed the beginning. I'm not worried about the disappearance. I believe all of this is by design. The truth will come out. In the meanwhile, I want to know where. Yeah, I am worried about. I am worried about that. I really am. I'm like, this is again, in my work, we can do a report and somebody's got to go find out. People have seen that. Remember Michael Jackson with that baby? There was a wellness report. There should have been a wellness report filed by now to ask that same question. Where is she? How is she? And, et cetera, et cetera. So that we know that everything is at least okay. Lakiva says, I believe that she should stop taking poor people's money because anyone could have that and still have to work and take care of children. She's no better than us. Okay. Okay. Let's see. J Matt says, I will say it again. She used Meghan's name because she knew she would get a reaction from the wrong people. Give your speech, but please leave Meghan's name out of it. She knew what she was doing. Thank you, J Matt. And J Matt also adds, where is Kate? I do want to know. I am curious. I'm curious to find out where Kate is, right? Because I'm anybody in the UK, if there has to be a process. Can you put a 1 in the chat if you know that there's a process for someone doing a wellness check? That just seems like, yeah, somebody should be making some noise over there to insist that we have a report that says we know that where she is and that she's okay. All these silly sightings of these people, it's just weird. Crystal Scott, Lord Jesus, sorry for the spelling. Oh, no apologies necessary. Deb, ESL is difficult, plus public speaking, plus wanting to say something relevant for Children's Day, plus generation gap, plus cultural differences can lead anyone to say something that may be misunderstood. All true, right? Yeah, so English is a second language. English is difficult, right? So we make mistakes in our language, right? Unless we're Kendrick Lamar, who has, entendres. Probably at this point, he has, more than 1,000 entendres for every single word that he says, based on all the layers and levels that he's able to use this English, black ink, because he does. Oh yeah, that's another thing. And you guys hear me kind of code switching in here. When I switch between standard American English and black English, Kendrick's like, I ain't code switching there, and that's another trend in this country. I was raised on code switching, so when I went to school, you spoke, if you were black American, you spoke Black English for the most part in your house, whatever dialect. My daddy was from Mississippi, so his dialect was at all his point, and most people didn't understand nothing he was saying who came in our house, right? Heavy, heavy, thick Mississippi accent. And my mother from the north spoke in more of a standard American accent, but she definitely spoke Black English in our home. So there's this whole push, this whole move to only speak in the language of our parents in schools now with these kiddos. And people like, if you've ever heard Ryan Coogler, I think Ryan Coogler, just so you know, has the sexiest accent on the planet. Not that you need to know that, but he speaks only Black English. He don't try. Like he's from Oakland. I'm up here in the Bay too. And the fact that, you know, to use Black English and to speak in your native American, Black American tongue is a revolutionary act to do that. And so he's not apologizing, just like Kendrick. Kendrick's like, and I ain't code switching, so if you don't understand me, you better get a dictionary and or an urban, whatever kind you need, because the urban dictionary, most of those words eventually end up in you know, the other ones anyway. So yeah, so all that to say, Kendrick's name probably. So ESL's, yep, read that. My poem for missing Kate. Did Mad Miffled Willie Marshar can lead anyone to say something that may be misunderstood. I'll leave the dots in the center of that. Deb, if she's the first lady, then how is she not trained in learning the language used all over the world? She knew enough for the world to know exactly what she said. Okay. Marshall, my poem for missing Kate. Did Mad Miffed Willie around Kensington Palace? Ooh, that could be. There's so many dots in that, Marshall, that I have to add. Whoa, could be like, and that's a concern. That is a concern. And if we know, and that's the same. So if we juxtapose the tale of two, let's see, dignitaries, if you will, the whole Kate Middleton debacle of not being seen in a long time, and like mistakes are being made. The First Lady of Nigeria, I think mistakes are being made, and I think the palace mistakes are being made around those things. And I know you can do an intersection that intersects both of those mistakes, and what is the effect, right, of on the people. The people are like, where is she, what's happening, because you guys messed up and are not saying. And on the other side, people are saying mistakes were made, this language was telling you this hurts, we're telling you this is how we feel. And if it's your cultural practice to say, well, we're above all of that and we don't respond to those things, it's just our practice, and so we just have to be okay with the results, then that's also saying something, right? Can we all say hypocrites talking about the UK can't find Kate, worried about Meghan, Jim? They don't really care, I guess. Yeah, that's the intersection. The intersection is around the not caring about what the people, that seems like that's an intersection, right? Crystal Scott, thank you for that. It feels like that the intersection is that we don't have to. It is, for whatever reason, like it is not our cultural practice, possibly because we are higher than you. We don't have to explain ourselves, and you can't make us. And if you misinterpreted it, or if you don't see her, that has nothing to do. You don't have a choice. So deal with it, is what it can feel like. It's the intersection, another intersection around power. So because we are powerful in our own right, we don't acknowledge or explain, and that whole palace thing, never explain, never complain, right? And they're doing that. Is that the same practice then of the First Lady, the Yoruba First Lady? Never complain, never explain. Is that also a thing? Like, is that something that happens in the culture around power in the presidential, I was going to say the White House, in the presidency and and that extends to the first lady, that they never complain, they never explain. And so the people, the population is just sitting there feeling or thinking what we're thinking. Not that I'm not a member of either one of those. I am just a person who, when I heard the words, I was like, oh, ouch, which is a thing that I say. Marshar says, Marshar, you got a little spicy last time, so I'm going to have to take another breath. Okay. Whatever Willie did or didn't do to her, I hope all he did was ask her for a divorce and not, laid hands. If he has, then it's been going on for years. I want all females and guys to get away from abuser. Yes. Yes, and it doesn't help, Marsha. Thank you for that. It doesn't help. Thank you for all that you do in here. Anyway, it doesn't help for them to be doing things the way they're doing these things. And I don't understand it. I don't understand. I'm going to read it one more time. I had a thought that went away. I think it was the end. If he has, then it's been going on. Yes, that's what I was thinking. The abuse, like that alleged abuse that has been happening. It doesn't help when they talk about how much anger that he experiences. And the dog bowl. We all remember the dog bowl, right? That poor Harry got pushed into. Like, what? You're gonna fight me? What? And then, if this happens to, something's gonna break. And here's my question. Here's my question. Please put something in the chat. When something breaks, if it breaks, and it is that this person is no longer able to communicate, is no longer with us, what happens to the UK media at that point? Because it will be an extreme, not just to the people of the UK, to the people of the entire world. You told us to shut up. You told us she has cancer. You told us all of these things, and we shut up for a time. And then as soon as it bubbles up, allegedly, when we do and we start to question again, then there's a sighting. And then you tell us, oh, you're attacking. To say these things is to attack the monarchy. To say these things is to attack a sick person. Are we not being irresponsible when we don't do a safety check? Plenty of kids in this system, in this country, end up being hurt and worse. And social services makes extreme mistakes. And they pay for them, right? Financially, but we can't do anything for the kid if the kid, disappears. And so is the UK media allegedly being responsible? And what happens to them? What do the people of the UK do, and what do the people around the world do if we find out that this is a ruse, right? If this is just all, not true, and that something really, really traumatic has happened. You're complaining about portraits, right? Could this portrait be the result, the artist painting, as we said about Prince Charles's painting, or as was said, that this is how the artist saw them. What is the internal struggle that happens for a person who goes through chemo? It is an extreme internal struggle. And how can they show up for their kid? Would they not be different? Would they not look different? I'm going to see if I can switch pictures anyway as I think about this. So I thought about this to, let's see, can we all say hypocrites? Talking about the UK, can't find Kate, worried about Meghan's jam. They don't really care, I guess. That's whatever Willie did or didn't do to Kate. I hope all he did. Yep. Okay, we read that one. It's from Abusers. Good, thank you. They will get their karma, Crystal says. One word at a time. Ashar, if something bad happened to her, in my opinion, UK media is complicated. I think your talk to text messed up on you. To her, complicit, I think. Maybe you meant to say complicit. They covered for, and yes, they should be held responsible as well. Yep, that's what I thought. Good. See, we're vibing, Marsha. Adjusting and abiding in a crime. Yes, that's what my feelings are. That if that woman, that mother, like, see, if we're to pause and see her humanity, despite the things that our Duchess, Princess Duchess, has suffered, she brought forth children into this world. And they call her mommy, mom, ma, all of those things. She's a daughter. I've lost cousins, and I've seen mothers not ever come back to baseline. I lost one of my favorite cousins. He was surfing in Mexico, got in a car crash, was 22, and his mom never took she never took insulin shots, and I always thought that was her way of exiting, because the trauma of losing a child was too much. She has a mother, she has a father, she has a sibling, at least, yeah. So she has people who love her and who will be devastated. And I just think it's malpractice. Let's see. If something bad happened, okay, yep, they're complicit. Thanks for that, yep. And Willie won't be charged, he will be charged. So I'm going to say allegedly, he will be charged by tomatoes. He will be charged by never being able to, I think, let me know what you guys think. How will he be held accountable if something really happened? I think in the court of public opinion, he will be charged. In the court of public opinion, though, this can be the undoing. This is like Kendrick, again, you guys know, and Drake. This will be the undoing of the UK media and I don't understand why there's not one newspaper who is standing up, not one major newspaper who's standing up and holding them accountable. Because you're going down too. It is your job to investigate. It is your job. Do they not see that? Do they pox on all of their houses, allegedly, if you will? Do they not see that it is their job? Or is it because they have a monarchy that this is the way? Clearly, this is the way things are going, in my opinion, right now, right? And so how can we, as, kind of I'm not over there, but being a subject under media, if you will, and this is also media, thankfully, that we're listening to podcasts and we're podcasting and we're participating in this stuff. But if she is no longer, then it tells us something larger, I think, that we can extrapolate, that the media doesn't keep us safe, right? And so if the media doesn't keep us safe, then what are we to do? Are we to, listen? Are we to believe? I don't think we do. I don't think we listen or believe what they say if this is the case, if you will, right? Because, I understand diplomatic immunity. I understand that there's I think I've been told that there's an immunity that will happen if something really happens. But these are pictures that we've seen of, in my opinion, the princess, right, of Wales. The first one, the media, and there's been all this outrage around the painting that's been done, right? But what's the difference between having a painting that's not representative of the princess's looks and having all these filters that have to be put on the face, or that are required to be put on the face, that are not representative also of what the princess looks like? Is there a difference? The media said this was Kate in the car with the mom, right? Remember that one? That one looks a little bit to me like the Tatler image. And we also, almost all the pictures we get that come from the media are filtered in a way to show the Princess of Wales the way they want us to see her. How do they want us to see her? 15 years younger and Yeah, 15 years younger and filtered allegedly through their lenses to look like their ideal of what beautiful is. So she can't be beautiful if she's aging. So there's that filter. And then we get the painting, the oil painting from, you know, the Zambian artist who's from the UK. And there's outrage about that, but not about the first picture, or not about all the filtered pictures that we've been getting, other than when she was in Copenhagen with that first lady, right? And then we get the one that they tell us that to believe that that's Kate also, in that the picture of her in the car with her mom, right? So, let's see. Court of public won't be good enough. Criminal act and not held accountable is not justice. Thank you, Crystal. Marshar April says, I'm not a fan of her, but Kate, I will stick up for her. She's being abused, especially by her husband. Yeah, that's a lot, Marshar. When the British authorities won't do anything to him if he's guilty of harming his wife, then he will receive justice. So will Chuck before he meets his maker. I don't believe. Okay, you don't believe that diagnosis. Crystal, I honestly believe she's alive and kicking. I'm just not convinced. She's as bad off as she's been reported. She's finally living the high life she wanted without doing the so-called work. Crystal, I am hopeful that your opinion is close to the truth. I am. Because if it's just a divorce that's happening and she's, a lot of people have said, or I've heard, that it's been a mental health breakdown. Even people who have mental breakdowns, unless there is a kind of complete breakdown and separation of, of the self from the mind, and she's no longer able, a kind of psychotic break has happened. But even people who have psychotic breaks have lucid moments for the most part. So what is the reason that we can't see an actual image, even if sick, even if living a high life, like with her kiddos? Wouldn't that be a great picture to put out for Mother's Day? And say that he took the picture of her just laughing and playing with the kiddos? Because have we seen, Charlotte and Louis? I don't recall seeing them. And that's also scary. And that makes me really glad that Prince Harry got out of there. So if it's anything close to what my mind, and I'm not really a person who thinks in terms of a lot of conspiracy theories, but this is making me really go down rabbit holes, right? So I'm hoping, though, Crystal, like you said, that she's okay, and she's actually not okay, just okay, that she's thriving and doing what she wants to be doing. Lakiva, yeah, that's a sad, scary thought. And if that's the case, they're all complicit. And what would it be like to be that high profile and nobody come looking for you? What does that mean about our justice system, our justice systems around the world, that you can be that high profile, you can be a member of a society, and no one can force anyone to come and show up for you? That's where it feels like that we are right now. So I don't know. It just really it all really makes me sad. And yeah, because these are some of the last photo. Remember the one in the car before the one that they had put together, the zombie photo of all the different hands and stuff that were put together about Kate? This was one pretty close to that one. And so, yeah, of some paparazzi following the Land Rover allegedly, but yeah, it's pretty strange in my mind. They said she's surfed by her family. Doesn't sound good. What do you mean, Connie Balmer? I think that was another one of those talk to texts, maybe. Marshart, Kate is receiving karma for her sins. In my opinion, only God controls any of this. Although I feel nothing for her, I see her getting involved in something she shouldn't, going after money and fame. Yeah, I can. It can. And I want the kiddos to be okay. As greedy as her mom is, I don't think she could keep quiet about her child being gone. You know, that's potentially, I see how you can think that, Crystal. And in in this country, we hear, are you in the U.S.? Maybe we hear a lot about the Illuminati, right? So, if people are big enough and scary enough, or if they've been threatened to, like, who knows? So when we are in this, when I'll speak for myself, in this rabbit hole of around a conspiracy, I am seeking to do anything or think anything that's going to align almost. I don't want it to be true, but at the same time, for me it feels true. So I'm like, well, they could, what would, if they've done that to the Princess of Wales, if something's happened allegedly, then what could potentially also happen to you as a person? Even though you had some money, you have no power, really, right? I would, so, okay, so Crystal, you're in the US, right? Have you heard of the Illuminati? I'm sure. Like, all these Hollywood people are in the Illuminati. Like, okay. So that's a thing, the Illuminati. So, but, and at the same time, it's like, as high profile as she is, like, even Michael Jackson again had social workers show up at his house saying, like, why are you dangling that baby outside the window for his youngest child blanket? Like, and they had to answer to the public for that. And so he wasn't, yeah. So anyway, that's why I keep asking that question. Are they excused from that? And they have all these courtiers and things like in this country, people think NDAs protect them. They don't protect you against illegal activity. If you are a witness to a crime, you better tell it. Like, you don't get out of that because you signed an NDA with Puffy. Although they make the people who have their clients or people who work for them sign NDAs, they're not supposed to reveal any information. And if it's illegal, something that's going on, it can't protect you against something illegal. So are they just above everything over there, unlike what we're used to over here? Is there no system that holds them accountable? Connie, I didn't get any clarification on what you were saying. They said she's served by her family. That doesn't sound good. Kate's, okay, I read that one. Let's see. Seriously, unfortunately, the kids are not okay because they were born into that family. I pray that Harry's victorious in his lawsuit against the British media, so those kids can have some protection from the press. I agree. I hope that the kids are gonna be fine. Harry's kids, I think, will be. I mean, I think that maybe by the time they come of age, social media will be so different that people won't be as concerned, because the younger generations are also turning against celebrity, not just media and doing their own media. They're also saying we're not doing this kind of celebrity worship. So they may not care much. I think they'll care some, but I think the way they care will be more about, like, what are they doing, and because they have these great parents, they will be doing certain things that are going to make them, show up differently. And I can't wait to see Archie and Lily as teenagers. I know we're not going to get many shots, but oh my goodness, they're so cute. And, just like doing work, it's so wonderful to see young people, for me, to see young people show up doing a kind of like work around, just volunteering and just being smart, looking, listening, looking adults in their eye. Like, yeah, I think those kids they're gonna be wonderful kids, right? Let's see. That said, she was surrounded by her family, is what Connie was saying. Oh, okay. And that doesn't sound good. Yeah. Did I miss? Yeah. Crystal, I agree with you that Kate's alive and strong. The divorce process began when they moved from KP to Adelaide's smaller home. Divorce proceedings has not yet been accepted by Kate. Oh, okay. So you think it's that she's maybe suffering a kind of depression. I did all of this because, and I want to be queen. I'm going to be queen. Maybe. And if she gets to be queen, if something happens with Charles, what happens then if she's still not, I'm not rooting for her, allegedly. Definitely not that. Definitely not like interested in him becoming ruler, especially not right away. And what happens if she's refusing? Like, she's queen. Can you divorce a queen? I'm wondering. Being surrounded by your family is something I've done with people in my family who've passed on so many occasions. Just going there and holding them. Like, for one person, we sang. So it can be, So the kids, George is older, so he can maybe, not well, but navigate this better. But the younger kids, I can't imagine, right? Let's see, not having to trot the kids out is a plus. Yeah, that's true. The running interference from the rags and gutter press is another reason to give pause. She's okay. William needs to go to... I love those emojis, Lakiva. So he needs to go to Monopoly jail. Got it. Yeah. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Is it still $200 or has it gone up? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. If something this tremendous has happened to her, Tattler, that whole name, Tattler. Nobody's tattling anything, right? Somebody needs to tattle right now. Like, who's going to be the tattler? Like, who's going to go tell? Nanner. Like, this is like no courtiers. No one will speak up for her. No one will speak to say, even for clarification, that she's okay. They release all this stuff to the press all the time. But I don't recall hearing a courtier or anyone else really speaking on the record without revealing their name about what's happening with this process, understanding that the world is, and as soon as TMZ gets ready to do another documentary on Where Is She, it'll almost have to be like they're not going to announce it. It will have to be a kind of surprise one. Because as soon as they get word, then boom, like the day before or the morning of is when that announcement came out, I believe. I might be wrong, but I do believe that the announcement came around the diagnosis the day that TMZ was going to, or the day before, no more than that they were going to do an expose about this whole thing. And you better believe that TMZ has some reporters over there, regardless of like what they've told us. That's how, like, that's our tabloid, and they get receipts. When TMZ reports something, it's typically like true. Because it just, I think from my perspective, it's like, oh, that was in TMZ. Did you? Because they come with footage, they come with receipts. It's not just, like, believe what we say, like the Inquirer, even though they've gotten things wrong. I don't read these things, but yeah, in those cases, they did get the Kendrick Drake thing completely wrong, but hip hop heads knew they would, because just because you don't see me doing it don't mean I can't, right? Just because you ain't seen it. And be be afraid of the boogeyman, right? For as far as Kendrick is concerned. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to come on and do a little bit of a podcast on some of the things that I've been trying to do a podcast on for a few days now, to talk about the Tatler photo, to talk about, some of this other stuff. Like, all this stuff is older. We've seen the Obama photographs. I think we talked about them for a second. We talked about this one. Like, look at Jonathan. I named this painting Fatherhood myself, because it feels like it's Harry's revenge. Like this, if Yo is painting this for Harry, like, so I call this fatherhood. If you can see that, that's, yeah, my own title that I gave it. So the artists are fighting back. The artists are saying, with respect to Princess Catherine's photograph or her painting, you guys have been filtering the way we see her forever. So when we show you what we think, when I show you what I think, how come you're so mad? Why are you so mad if this is what you've been doing? You have this image of her that you want to maintain from her as almost a teenager, or at least early 20s, and the woman is in her 40s at this point. And so if you can do that, then why can't I create my own? And then you say this is her in this truck with her mom. You say this is her skipping in the market, and then there's no explanation. So we're going to be able to create our own thing. So this one too, this is fatherhood, but I've heard this was called like some kind of Tampax before, allegedly, if you will, also, right? And I can see that too, right? I can see that too. But so these are the ones that I thought that Prince Charles was kind of going for, especially with respect to President Obama. And we talked a little bit about how he shows up in the flowers, and how like it's a super modern portrait, and he looks to me overworked at that point. And this has been a few years at this point. I think, when did I go to DC last? I think this may have been 18 when these portraits came out. I think it was 18 when I was there. Anyway, so they were at the Michelle's at least was at the National Portrait Gallery. And, so like showing who the artist thought that they are, Michelle and Barack Obama. He was overworked, and he was still like, in my mind, like, wow, you're in all these flowers, you're just a great person. What other slides? Historical context, artistic authenticity versus flattery. So Kate's portrait, Prince Charles's portrait, neither one can be accused of being flattering to them, right? So it's the artists being authentic about what they see, and that's not necessarily just the physical part, but they try and see more than that and capture more than that when they're painting portraits of people. I had some questions. We're not going to go through those today. So, yeah, the contrasting reactions to the realistic portraits of Kate and Prince Charles. So, like, they weren't realistic. Well, Charles's looked physically realistic, and even though all of the ones of Kate, none of them look real, because we understand that she's a lot older. She's 20% older than in reality than she is in the images that you're showing, and maybe she's 20% different than what the Tatler's showing, and she's 20% different also in the image that the UK media gave us in that truck. So what do we do with that, right? Because all of it is a lie in a way, right? And perhaps, maybe not all of it, perhaps the artist's portrayals are the most true images that we get from these people, because they potentially are painting the internal dialogue, the internal narrative, or the soul of what the artist is seeing and feeling as they're painting these people, right? So let's see. At this point in time, Kate has power because they need her for good press, but Willie was jealous of her getting all the attention. He doesn't get it. The public likes seeing pretty things, and he isn't. Yeah, he can definitely be accused of not being pretty, allegedly, right? No, he shouldn't. Crystal says no. Yes, we see those. Marsha, the Tatler portrait is horrible. It's telling me the ghost of a princess, or she doesn't have a ghost of a chance. See, Marsha. Oh, see, that's the kind of levity that I need today in this space. So, as we go forth, I don't know. This has been kind of a combination of what I wanted to cover today in the pod. So, I'm going to thank you guys for showing up. I want to thank Lydia Washington, the first person who subscribed, who got a membership, I guess. That was pretty cool to see that. Like, oh, okay, I did it right, sort of. Connie, I'm working on it, but I know what they say. They say that it takes a couple of days for that thing to appear. If it does, then I'll go back and continue to try to work. If you get a minute, like, go back and listen to some of the other episodes to support the channel. And I put a couple of things in the community post, like a couple of quizzes around emojis that I'm working on too. Also, you can let me know what kinds of things you want us to cover in the pod. I really, really love the squad. You guys lift me, hopefully, for all of us, whatever side of the discourse that you've been on. Hopefully, this space feels like kinda safe, and hopefully that you feel safe expressing your feelings in the comments, if not so much in this space, but in the comments section on the pods. Yeah, you guys know what I'm saying. So, as always, it has been so lovely being, thanks to Callie Jen for being a mod, thanks to Lydia Washington for being a mod, and thanks to all of you for showing up. I always, whenever I don't care if it's one person, I'm going to pod to you. So thank you for showing up. The first person, the second person, the 39th person, the 200th person, whatever it has been, I'm going to show up in a certain way because I'm doing this work for all of us. Okay? So, again, without further ado, I am going to say so long, farewell. Crystal says, this is an easygoing space I thoroughly enjoy when I can make it. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that, Crystal. And I thoroughly enjoy being with all of you. And I want to continue to make the space a better space every time I pod. And again, I'm going to make mistakes. Call me out, call me out. Go ahead. I want that. I actually want that, so that I can understand my effect on you and I can work to improve it. And, or, if I'm standing on it, I can explain at least my perspective that might soften your opinion of why I'm moving in a certain way. So, let's see. So as we go, I just want to say, thank you, Marshar. Thank you, Marshar, for everything you do. I appreciate it too. Like, I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. And again, I want us to continue to grow and to keep moving in a direction like Michelle Obama says, my forever first lady. When they go low, we go high. You're welcome, Marshar. Novi, thank you, Novi, so much. Yeah, and Crystal says better to laugh than cry. Yep, it actually, and I feel lighter again today. It wasn't, it's getting lighter every time, and perhaps, we are beginning to get back out there in the streets. Marshar is definitely a poet. Does she know it? Or does she? Oh, I see. I changed it to Black English Mary Man. Marshar is a poet. Does she know it? Your version is nice too. Mary Man, we're just about to head out. We're all just saying our goodbyes and thanking everybody for showing up and being respectful of, divergent opinions, because at least, like, if people say this thing, then at least we know we cannot dismiss what someone else is saying. If they're saying this is my perspective and we hurt them, we can't say we didn't know, right? And we can be gentle, and we can still, we can be pointed, and we can be, we can be surgeons. We can be targeted and try and do that thing. We can be pointed, and we can be as gentle as possible, with the understanding that we're trying to do this work in a specific way. And we're all human, right? So, Mary says, goodbye. And Crystal, yes, try to laugh every day and bring laughter to others. Yep, so without further ado, guys, I'm going to head out, and this will probably take another minute or so to shut down, but I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I love the squad. God knows I do. So I hope to see you back here next time. Until then, take care and ciao.